Alright, we're back. Sorry for the technical difficulties.
Okay.
So you're talking about your mother working 2 jobs.
One was full-time at the Grand Island School of Business, and the other, she worked for the Department of Labor. At select stores, they would tell her which ones, but every week, 2 evenings, she would go to those stores and write down the prices of specific goods, eggs. I'm making them up, I don't know. But they were grocery stores, so they were food items, and she would write down the prices, and that's how the Department of Labor determined the cost of living.
Oh.
Because I'm sure there were people that did that all over.
Yes, generating that completely bogus economic statistic called CPI.
Ah.
Yes, very interesting. Okay, so moving along.
Okay, then she did that for quite a while. She remained a widow for 11 years. I was 16, and so and a senior. In high school when my father died, and moved out of the house in September of that year, and went on to college, and so I never really lived at home again. I visited a lot, and I would spend weekends and sometimes even 2 weeks on vacation, but I never really lived there again. So my sisters, Margaret and Kathy, had to take care of the house most of the time because Mom was working. And I had just found out a few years ago that Margaret's always been pissed at me for that, because I left. Like I knew then or now or anything. But
We wouldn't often expect you to be mind readers.
yeah. But when my dad died, my youngest sister was 3. And so she basically grew up without a father. And sadly, both of my parents had college degrees. Everyone in their families had college degrees. And I am the only one in my family who has a college degree. And I don't understand it. They're doing okay.
Working for the railroad can't be.
Yeah, I mean.
Can't be bad income.
Yeah. And just recently, back in December, my brother John died.
Right.
He was 60. He was the 4th oldest in our family. And I think he died of PTSD. I think PTSD.
Really?
He drank. He was an alcoholic. But when he was working, he didn't drink. And when he showed up for work, he was completely sober. He wouldn't have found any alcohol in his system. But when he got home from a run, a case of beer went down in the morning. And he was way overweight. He never, ever, ever talked about Vietnam. Not once did he say anything about Vietnam, even though I asked lots and lots of times.
Wow,
and I just think it ate him up.
Yeah.
He got diabetes, Agent Orange. He got hypertension and alcoholic cardiomyopathy and all kinds of stuff. What killed him probably was a pulmonary embolism. But what he died of was PTSD.
Oh, that's
he never had it treated.
I didn't even realize that he had been in Vietnam. I have to
was,
ask Chris about that. Maybe she knows some of the details. Oh.
I don't think he ever talked about it at all. John never said anything.
I'm very curious what kind of horrific things he witnessed or was forced to be a part of.
He was a cook. You know, this is part of the reasons why I figured out the Army was illogical. They took my brother John, who was an all-state linebacker, 190 pounds, and made him a cook in Fort Huachuca, Arizona, because I was already overseas and in the Army, and so they wouldn't send me.
Oh, so wait, I thought he didn't serve in Vietnam?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, no, he kept pestering.
Okay.
He kept pestering to go, and so finally he went before I came home, so he managed to do that. When I volunteered twice to go to Vietnam, I was sent to Korea.
Right.
Good move on my part.
Yes, indeed. I'll second that.
I figured before I volunteered to go to Vietnam, I determined from several instances, from several examples, that the Army was not only illogical, it was perfectly illogical. And anything that made sense, they would do the opposite. So the only way for me to stay out of Vietnam was to volunteer to go. And over several beers one night, I tried to convince the 7 other draftees in my class in signal school. There were 41 in our class. All of the others had signed up to go to this school. That was part of their enlistment. I was drafted, and so there were 7 others who were drafted. We were kind of a group.
Okay.
I tried to convince them of the validity of my argument, and only one guy listened. And so he and I both got the papers and volunteered to go to Vietnam, and brought them to our company commander, and our company commander said, "I have been to Vietnam. You do not want to go," and tore up the papers. And so we had to go back to headquarters company, get new forms, do it all over again. And this time the captain said, "You guys are nuts, you're crazy, but if you want to go, I'll pass it on up." And so he did. And at the end of a 6-month signal school, assignments were made, and 39 of my class of 41 were assigned to Vietnam, and the other fella and I were sent to Korea.
I love that story. So perfectly typical of the Army and bureaucracy and the government. On a personal note, I'm very glad that happened because you met my mother in Korea.
That is exactly correct.
And so
Your
I
mother
owe my
was-
existence to that savvy move.
At the time that I met her, your mother, Young Suk So, S-E-O, it actually would have been So Young Suk. She was the best woman's basketball player in all of Asia. The proof of that was that Korea won the Oriental, I don't know what, because of my own chemo brain, I don't remember the title of the tournament. But there was a tournament with China, Japan, and Taiwan, and Thailand, and other countries in that area. It may be India, and the tournament was held in Taipei, Taiwan. And so it was going to be very hot, and the reason that I met her was that the coach of the team asked the Army if they could come to our Camp Page in Chuncheon, Korea, to practice, because had big heavy heaters so that the guys could play basketball and work out in the gym during the winter. Well, this was during the summer, but we could still turn on the heat. And so he felt that that would be a good experience for the players to play in the excess heat. And they said, okay, you just have to play at a time when it's not being used much by the rest of our Army guys, our staff for who was milk. And so they practiced things like Sunday morning. Most evenings they would practice like from 9 to 11. There was a curfew at midnight, so that gives them time to get back to their hotel and so on. Anyway, I saw her there. And before they left for this tournament, I gave her 2 4-leaf clovers I had found for good luck. And when she came back, she brought me a pink dog.
A pink dog. Your prayers have been answered.
And she was outside the gate of the camp. And so she came in, we walked around, showed her where I lived, and so on. She was dressed beautifully. She had on probably her traveling suit for the basketball stuff. It was a pink skirt suit, not a pantsuit, and a little pink hat. She's very pretty.
I can imagine.
Your mother was very pretty. We dated after that, but her father made her older sister always come along. We'd go to movies and take walks in the park or go to an amusement park sometimes. And she would come up to Chinchon and go hiking up to a lake and things like that.
Did she speak English at that point?
Poorly.
Okay.
And 나는 한국말을 조금합니다. Which means I speak only a little Korean.
Okay.
Enough to order food, find the bathroom, find the highway to go to Chinchon.
Fair enough.
The army where I was pretty boring, so I did a lot of things. One of them was to take the Korean language course. So I learned a little bit. I could order cold water. I didn't want to get married. I don't know, what did we skip?
Well, we were talking about Mom. You were mentioning you knew that she was the best basketball player, but didn't quite explain
Okay,
why.
well, I didn't finish it. The reason that I know that is because at this tournament that Korea won, she was voted the most valuable player.
Pretty cut and dried then.
Yeah, so, and at practice, these girls, not just Youngsu, but others too, would shoot 53 shots in a row and make them all. And then the next person do it.
That is very annoying since I can barely make 5 in a row.
Well, I gotta tell you, they practiced like crazy. They must have practiced 10 hours a day. I mean, this was their job. They all worked for banks, okay? And so once a month, they had to go in and work a whole day, counting money or doing something at the bank, to continue to be bank employees who played basketball. That was their real job. But to be amateur, they worked for and got paid by the bank and played basketball in their spare time.
Okay.
Okay, and there were 6 banks that did this, and they had a league, and they played amongst each other a lot, and big attendance to these games. And for international competition, then they would select an all-star team from that league. and that would be their international.
Gotcha.
And your mother wasn't the tallest woman on her team, because there was a woman who was 5'10". Mother was 5'9".
Yeah, but gigantic for Koreans.
Yeah.
Gigantic.
And boy, could she shoot. After we had been together for a while, and I was still in the Army, she would come up and we would often go to the gym 6 or 7 o'clock at night and be shooting around, goofing off. And a couple Army guys would come in and they'd want to play. And, you know, we had the hoop, and so they said, well, let's play, we'll play you. I said, you know, okay, we'll take you on, you two. We'll play me and her. And they would look at this short Korean girl and in gym clothes and say, yeah, $20. And I'd say, okay, you got $20? Yeah, I got $20. Here's my 20. Where's yours? Or on the floor. And if they scored a point, it was pretty lucky. Because all I had to do was grab a rebound and toss it to her outside the key.
Nice.
Well, that only lasted for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, if you're not hustling about it, people wise up.
Yeah. They figured it out, and he stopped paying. But they did like to play with her. She awfully good.
Yeah, I mean, always good to play with good players.
Jump forward 10 years, and maybe at least 5 or 6 years, and we are in Winchester, Virginia, where she is playing on a town team, women's basketball, and they had a league and played games with local surrounding towns.
Yeah, I barely remember that, right? Wonder Woman outfits or something like that?
Probably. Because often, she would play with one team in the first half and the other team in the second half.
Mm-hmm. Keep things fair, huh?
Yeah, because there was no comparison.
I wonder if she still plays. It'd be interesting to get her on the court now that I play the game. Very interesting. So, all right, let's move along. We're probably going to run out of time here since Christina called, and we're probably going to have to pick this up at some point, or at some other point. But let's see. So you talked a little bit about why you became a pharmacist. What other work experiences have you had?
My first job, when I was maybe 12 or 13, is a colleague of my father acted as general contractor for building his own house. Okay, and so he hired me to be whatever the carpenter, the mason, the plumber, the roofer, whatever they needed, I was the guy that helped them get it. Okay, you need shingles, I carry shingles up the ladder. You need the saw that you forgot to bring up because you got to saw this, that's what I got. When you needed somebody to make a mortar to put the bricks up, I made the mortar, carried the stuff. Guy paid me 50 cents an hour. A lot of money back, what would that be, 1956?
Right.
Or something like that. That was a lot of money.
Yeah, I'm sure. Still on a pseudo gold standard, so inflation hadn't really kicked in at that.
Of course, before that I had mowed lawns, and I still continued to mow lawns during that time because I didn't work for him every day.